Welcome to RISKSA TV. We're joined in studio today by Jurie Erwee, CEO of Marsh Africa. Welcome and thank you for joining us, Jurie.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
What are your thoughts just generally about the state of the insurance broking market in South Africa?
I think despite challenging macroeconomic environments, the industry remains a resilient industry. I think it's got a proud track record of navigating through through headwinds over the years. So I think it remains a healthy industry. Also an industry that's challenged to an extent, no doubt, but hopefully will continue to rise to the occasion. I think the market in itself is stable. It's typically what we refer to as a soft, stable market, which remains also positive for the consumer, our clients out there.
What are some of the key trends in terms of what clients require advice around in the current risk environment?
Look, I think clients are faced with more challenges and uncertainties than probably ever before. So the role of the risk advisor, the intermediary, the broker, would really be to work with clients to try and anticipate, some of the challenges and to find solutions, to the challenges that clients will typically face. So more specifically to your question, I think the environment that we find ourselves bring to the fore new risks, risks that people had not necessarily thought of yesterday or the week before. Typically would be developments, in the cyberspace. And there are others. Many of our clients, would not have had, infectious disease necessarily as high on the agenda, but the recent outbreak of Ebola in parts of Africa, again, brought to the fore new challenges, which again, risk advisors need to think about, come forward with the appropriate solutions.
Marsh has an impressive footprint across sub-Saharan Africa. What are your core areas of focus to enact your growth strategy there?
Yes, no, we're very proud of our footprint. The footprint is a very important part of our overall strategy, particularly as we anticipate greater headwinds in South Africa in the short term from an economic growth point of view. As an example, we would be looking to not only increase our footprint, but also looking for more exponential growth and contribution coming out of the rest of Africa, as we call it. So currently, we are represented in sub-Saharan Africa mainly. We also do have operations in Francophone Africa and in North Africa, but currently the North African Francophone operations do have a closer tie with our offices in Paris and in Dubai, but certainly from an Africa perspective, we are moving to have a more single view around strategic issues, and I'm intimately involved in those discussions, with colleagues elsewhere in the world. I think the growth that we see coming out of Africa will be very closely aligned to our own track record in South Africa, where through specialization, rather than being a generalist, examples would be building capacity, know-how, and IP around new areas of investment, like in the infrastructure environment, having the skills on the ground. As much as the oil and gas industry is going through I believe, a temporary slump, clearly looking ahead, still a lot of opportunities.
Tell me a little bit more about Marsh Risk Consulting and the service offering there.
Our risk consulting business offer a truly diversified range of services, consulting services ranging from specialized risk finance, captive management consulting, to physical risk management consulting services, advising the mining industry, advising the energy sector on risk mitigating strategies. Another interesting division, if you like, business within our broader risk consulting businesses in Africa is a valuations business, where we work with clients and assist them in the valuation of assets, and helping them updating asset registers, etc., which is an important component, indirectly aligned to wanting to make sure that you insure adequately. And I think the consulting business is very important for us, particularly as it allows us to differentiate our service offering. As much as it's important for an intermediary like ourselves to have the best skills to place risk on behalf of our customers, design programs, we can work very closely with our risk consulting colleagues in areas such as analytics, making sure we analyze in order to come forward with the most appropriate and cost-effective risk solutions for our customers. Yeah, so we're very excited about the future of our consulting business.
Speaking of the future, if one's looking ahead, what do you see as likely future trends in terms of challenge and perhaps opportunity as well in the insurance and the risk management side, particularly? The RDR review, retail distribution review, that's very topical. Currently work in progress is a very important piece of legislation that's going to change the landscape for intermediaries in South Africa, in particular in the short term. I think the overall objectives of RDR regulation is sound. It's really aligned to the broader treating customers fairly regulation. So we're very supportive of the overall objectives. There are, however, as we provide input and comment to the regulator on the legislation, also some short-term concerns that we need to get through, and through professional engagement and interaction and providing input. And some of the examples of immediate challenges where we certainly as Marsh are making our voice heard and providing constructive input to the regulator would be highlighting from our perspective the differences between a large corporate broker or a large multinational versus smaller independent brokers. Clearly a place for all of the categories to coexist in a competitive environment. But the point that we are making, brokers such as ourselves, the larger intermediaries, invest significantly in infrastructure, in technology, in IP, to a very different extent than would be the case for a smaller broker. And we do that because we want to differentiate. So hopefully, as we move forward and the legislation, becomes or was basically formalized, there would be a distinction, because we think it's so important, that you actually distinguish between, on the value proposition, of a professional services provider or an intermediary in our case. So I think, just summarizing, I think the regulatory landscape, which is changing very, very quickly, will impact businesses going forward. But it's not all negative. I think the intent of the legislation is commendable. We do see a bright future in Africa. The emergence of a very strong middle class, affords opportunities to provide, to develop and deliver new products and services. I think the investment that we anticipate will continue to go into Africa, not only from China, but from South America, from the US, from Europe selectively, will continue to provide exciting opportunities for risk advisors with specialist skills, closely aligned to infrastructure opportunities, the building of dams, roads, in addition to, as I said, the emerging middle market, which affords more opportunities, in the retail space. Right, so it's going to be a lot of change, but exciting times ahead.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, Jurie. I'm Sarah Bassett, and this is RISKSA TV News.